I ain't gonna lie to you guys. Once we're done with this video, you guys are gonna be telling me that I should be going to work in the video game industry as a writer. Today, I decided to write a brand new Batman Arkham game titled Batman Arkham Zero. This game is going to be taking place from day one of Batman's origins. But I swear, if I see one of you goobers go down in the comments and say,
well, technically, that isn't canon with what happens in the Batman Arkham timeline.
eat sand, okay? Literally nobody cares. Go make some friends, loser. Anyway, without further ado, let's get right into the game. I'm excited to share this with you guys. Batman, having trained under Karichi for quite some time as Bruce Wayne, decides he's ready to hit the streets of Gotham as his first night as Batman. Not wanting to draw too much attention to himself, to stay in the shadows. This is the only reason why the Batman was only the rumor for the first 2 years by Gotham's criminals and scum. He decides to start off with the GCPD themselves, believing that if he can eliminate Gotham's men in blue corruption, that they together can start to clean the city up once and for all and change Gotham and finally be a safe place again for families, friends, loved ones included. The first scene starts off as a tutorial and a demonstration of just how bad Gotham truly is to the core, as a cop can be seen taking money in exchange to watch this criminal's back while he takes a poor lady to an alley to rob her. In exchange, he gets 50% of the cut and won't be identified by the lady. However, Batman sees this cop taking money for cover and witnesses the robbery itself going down and immediately puts a stop to the criminal. This is where you have your first fight. A 2v1 against a criminal and a cop, to show you the combat and to show how often these groups of people work together for financial gain. Tying them both up and sending cops an anonymous tip, as well as security footage from a camera Alfred was able to hack, you successfully done the tutorial fight and taken one corrupt cop. The next and last tutorial is your first stealth mission. Carmine Falcone, who was the top dog of Gotham at the time, has his crew kidnap 2 fellow GCPD officers that we have to rescue, and upon stopping Falcone's gang from hurting the officers, Batman interrogates one of the thugs who kidnapped these 2. The thug says it was because the cops agreed to allow a weapons deal to go down at the southern docks, but these cops got cold feet and wanted to stop it at the last minute. So the cops tried to arrest them, and over one of the thugs' walkie-talkies, you can hear Falcone tell them to kidnap the officers. At which time, Batman KOs a thug and sees the cops going for a gun, and Batman stops them both with batarangs. Batman arrests the 2 men and goes to the South Docks to scan the area to see if he can corroborate the thug's story. This is your tutorial for crime scene investigation, and Batman determines that the thugs actually shot both the cops before kidnapping them, and Batman has Alfred send another anonymous tip and has the officers both arrested. Now that the tutorials are all done, it's time for the real story to commence. Following the interrogation of the Falcone thug, Batman sees it his top priority to look into Carmine Falcone's payroll to see if there are any other cops who have worked or currently work for Carmine Falcone or are on his current payroll. After breaking into Falcone's base of operations and having some combat and stealth encounters, we throw one of Falcone's thugs through the door as a way to make an entrance. This being the first time that he sees Batman, and having this be his first impression of Batman, can't help but be a little bit fearful, but masks it with a smile. This is where Batman attempts to ask Falcone about the officers on his payroll, but to no avail. This is the first boss fight. Once Falcone gets annoyed with Batman, making threats and attempting to take charge, Falcone pulls a flamethrower out, and you have to avoid his shots and use batarangs to get close, hit him a few times, rinse and repeat. Once Falcone is down, he tells you he doesn't keep the book here. He has a bookkeeper who is in charge of the bookkeeping and the finances, but won't tell him where, to which Falcone is KO'd and tied up. Batman decides to use his detective mode to scan for Falcone's known associates. There's 5 potential people who are known to be trusted by Falcone, and you have to search to see which one is the correct man. And once you find the correct person, you beat him, badly, within an inch of his life, but not killing him. Finally, Batman gets the book, and has a list of 12 officers which are currently on Falcone's payroll. Since 2 have already been dealt with, we just need to find and arrest the other 10 officers. Coming across the first 2 officers together, they can be spotted doing a deal with Black Mask, seemingly a narcotics deal. The reason for the cops wanting the stash is unclear, but as Batman shows up, there are armed thugs Batman has to deal with. Seeing Black Mask and the 2 officers are heading inside the steel mill. Once inside, an alarm signals, telling Black Mask an intruder is in the building, and upon seeing Batman, he's shocked and tells his men to get him. A fight ensues, to which, by the end, Black Mask is running away and Batman is only able to catch the officers. Upon interrogation, Batman discovers that all the officers we need to capture have made deals with some of the top players in Gotham. Black Mask, Penguin, Carmine Falcone, etc. Batman can be next seen dropping the officers outside the GCPD with an anonymous tip, letting them know what has been discovered. Over the next 8 officers, you keep finding little pieces of information, such as how long this has been going on, how many officers are allegedly involved. Batman starts to slowly piece it together, and with each officer it becomes more clear that one person is truly responsible for this entire operation that's been going on in Gotham, that being Commissioner Loeb. He's been telling the officers to make these deals, because he knows that the officers do get arrested or caught, they will be out by the morning. The following day, making it day 2 of Batman's career, he spots 3 of the officers chatting about getting arrested by the Bat-costumed freak, and how they're going to have to start watching their backs. Day 2's goal is to find and stop Commissioner Loeb. Knowing if he's taken down, the entire operation is screwed. Commissioner Loeb gets whispers of this Batman and tells his men to do everything by the book until Batman is dealt with. So Batman decided best to talk to the Penguin to get information out of him about what the officers exactly do for the Penguin in the hopes of gathering more evidence that could lock up these cops for good, and possibly even Commissioner Loeb. Despite the fact that Batman deems it unlikely that the Penguin will talk, he figures maybe he can offer him something, almost like a bait, to spring the trap. Only when Batman walks in, it turns out he walks into a trap and gets himself captured. Penguin knew he was coming, especially because he's always flying those drones around Gotham. Penguin sees and hears everything. Batman being tied up and Penguin trying to get information out of him about why he's lurking around. Batman says nothing, and before long the Batwing shows up to cause a distraction, long enough for Batman to untie himself using a batarang, and taking out Penguin's thugs. Finally, at last, we get the information out of the Penguin. Only Batman isn't satisfied. He's angry. He wants more. He slams the Penguin and beats him down. The Penguin finally spits out that Loeb has an entire operation with himself, Black Mask, and Carmine Falcone, as well as other small players in Gotham. In exchange, he gets a percentage of the profits that's made from all the business deals that he looks the other way from each and every day. Batman, knowing he can't waltz into the GCPD and beat the Commissioner, has to wait and bide his time until Loeb goes to leave. Batman, having testimony that he recorded during his conversation with the Penguin, needs more from the other players in Gotham that the Penguin had mentioned. Batman's new objective while he waits for Loeb is to speak with Black Mask and Carmine Falcone, wanting them to testify against the Commissioner in hopes that we can have a clean start for Gotham. Of course, they don't agree, due to fear that would expose themselves and get themselves arrested, and even some jail time. So Batman arrests them, hoping that the Penguin's testimony is enough to convict the other 2 men as well as the Commissioner. Now having dealt with the big bosses, that just leaves Commissioner Loeb. Batman realizes he's most likely going to have to wait until Commissioner Loeb himself goes to make a deal with one of the criminals. In order to be able to arrest him, he's going to have to need undoubtable proof. So Batman heads back to the Batcave to equip a body camera, similar to what police officers wear in real life. Knowing Batman won't see Loeb until tomorrow, he calls it a day there. Day 3 starts. Batman with his body cam on, audio ready to record. He's ready to catch Commissioner Loeb and bring down this sleazeball once and for all. Batman also knows that trying to catch Commissioner Loeb isn't going to be easy. Loeb knows the law inside and out, and he can't be arrested for just talking to somebody. So Batman spends days following Loeb around, until he finally catches a break. Loeb decides to wait until after hours to give a visit to Falcone. Ironically, the meeting is about Batman, about how he's been snooping around too much and digging for too much information, and how taking him out, in quotations, would be in everybody's best interest. Right as Batman's about to intervene with the recorded video, he hears through police scanners that a gunfight between Black Mask and the Penguin. Realizing how urgent this is, he makes his way over to the scene where he finds dead officers and thugs on both sides. As he enters the scene, he can hear Black Mask and Penguin arguing over the relationship with Loeb and the police. Black Mask thinking having them around causes too many problems. Penguin believes the weapons they have would stop the cops from double-crossing them, when ironically Commissioner Loeb shows up with a couple of previously mentioned police officers. The 3 men, Black Mask, Penguin, and Loeb, agree that it's best for the 3 of them to have a talk about the entire situation. Once they leave the room, Batman has to take out all the thugs and officers that do remain, before having the last boss fight where we have to stop these 3 individualized attacks. Batman arrests the 3 men and drops them off at the GCPD, as well as sends an anonymous tip with the evidence that Batman recorded and audio captured. However, nobody knows who made this initial arrest. This case gets brought to court, where Bruce Wayne actually attends the entire trial. Black Mask and Penguin are found guilty of attempted murder, illegal weapon stealing, and many more charges. And next up is Commissioner Loeb, where he is brought in front of the jury, where he is declared to be not guilty on all charges. The judge bangs his hammer, and that's the end of the game. And as the credits roll, you can actually see the judge taking money from an unknown figure. So guys, that is my general idea for a Batman Arkham game. Of course, there'd be a lot of gaps that would be filled with gameplay sequences, more boss fights and all that stuff, added side missions and all that, but I thought this was really fun. I really enjoyed writing this out, and as I'm reading it out loud, this sounds kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. I called it Batman Arkham Zero because it's like the initiation for Batman, right? It's kind of like the initiation DLC, but instead it's actually as Batman. I think it'd be a cool thing to see, even if it isn't in a Batman Arkham context, just any sort of Batman. I think this would be extremely cool. So let me know what you guys think, what you would add, what you would take away down in the comments below. I know this wasn't the longest video in the world, however, like I said, it's just a general idea of how the game would look. It's not necessarily a perfected game. I'm sure there's a lot of holes to fill. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace!